Hello and welcome. My name is Thomas, and in this video I'm going to share with you an app that I feel is one of the most underrated ones out there, and it is called CleanMyMac. Okay, so as you might imagine by the title, this is going to be a video that is specific to an app that is for Mac only. So if you do not have a Mac, you do not use a Mac, then this probably won't apply to you. However, if you do, this could be endlessly useful for you. So I have been working with Mac since I think junior high. Back in junior high, I worked on one of the big, massive plastic box, I think it was a G4 Mac, on which I used Photoshop and started doing all of my design work, and just kind of progressed from there all the way through high school and then beyond when I started to actually work in the field of design. But one of the problems that we have on a Mac, and you have on to some degree Windows as well, is that you'll notice that over time your Mac will start to slow down. There's a number of different reasons for this. Some of these are way beyond my knowledge or my expertise, but a lot of it has to do with just files and caching and things that build up over time as you are using your Mac. Plus, just a lot of us tend to keep adding on more apps that we use over time, where there just tends to be this digital dust that we tend to accumulate on our computers that at the end of the day will start to impact performance. We'll start to see lag on things that we didn't see before. We'll see websites aren't loading as quickly as they were. Tasks that are, video rendering or basic applications that require more RAM or more CPU to operate just end up doing things slower. That's why about a year ago I decided to download an app called CleanMyMac. I was a little bit skeptical at first because in my experience, it seems like some of the built-in utilities that Apple provides tend to do a better job of upkeeping a system. But what I have found is with things like Activity Monitor and the basic things built into a Mac, your options are pretty minimal. So what we're going to do today is I'm just going to show you some of my favorite features that are built into CleanMyMac and how they can start to save you some massive amount of space and start to speed up your computer at the same time. So if you're somebody who, if you're starting to notice some performance issues with your Mac, or maybe you've got an older one, like I have a fairly new MacBook Pro, but I still use a lot of these features just to keep my Mac running quickly, as well as to monitor to see if there's any apps that are causing lag or slowing things down and that sort of thing. So without any further delay, let's go ahead and jump in and see some of my favorite features built into CleanMyMac. Okay, so for when you first download and install CleanMyMac, you're gonna see a nice screen like this. They've got a nice, beautiful intro video that plays when you download it. One of the things that I like, just kind of as an aside, is it's very visually appealing. It's just a very uniquely designed app. But there's a lot of things kind of built in. So what you can do to start with is you can just click scan, and it'll do something that's called a smart scan. It'll just go through your computer and find things that it thinks can be improved upon. But I'm not going to go through that. You probably want to do that the first time that you install this app. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to show you some of my favorite features built in here. So some of the things that I like to go through, first of all, is a malware removal scan. So I'll do this probably once a month. I have never actually downloaded malware before, so it's never really been an issue. However, it is always kind of a concern, so I like to make sure that I run that pretty regularly. Privacy is also a great thing to build in as well. This is going to delete things like browser history, some of your caching and stuff like that. The reason I like this feature is more because it prevents websites from tracking you and kind of mining data as you are visiting various websites and that sort of thing. The main thing I like to use this for, though, on a regular basis is their uninstaller. So traditionally on a Mac, something that you would do is you would just take the icon, which represents the app, and then you would drag it to your trash can, empty the trash, voila, this app has been deleted or uninstalled, when in reality that's not always the case. The great thing about Find My Mac, on the other hand, or I should say CleanMyMac, is that they actually go through and it does a scan and it locates any of the extra files that are associated, files or data that is associated with that application, so that when you actually uninstall, you are sure that you're actually installing everything. So like, for example, if I have this old app that I no longer want to use anymore, I can just click on this and then I can click uninstall. I don't actually want to uninstall it. You can actually go through here. I've never tried this before, but you can go through and reset it. So if there's some preferences or some settings, ideally you would think that that would go through and it would actually reset that back to its kind of factory default settings. I've never actually used this one before, but they also have an updater, which is a great way to be able to update any apps that are kind of out of date. This goes through the process of, you may have done this before yourself, but you go up to the help menu, click check for updates, and then it checks to see if there's any updates available. Rather than you having to go through that manual process, CleanMyMac actually just goes in there and does the checks for you so that you can just update all of your software in one fell swoop. Similar to what I've talked about in the past when it comes to your website, in particular with WordPress, it's just as important with your computer and with your apps to ensure that all of your software is up to date. There's a lot of different reasons. You want to make sure that you always have the latest version to make sure that it's compatible with the latest version of macOS. But not only that, but for security reasons. If there, for whatever reason, there's a security hole or patch or something, that an exploit that has been released in a recent version of Mac software, it's really important that you keep your software up to date to ensure that you are the safest that you can possibly be. And another feature that I like to use all the time, because I always kind of find myself running out of disk space, is the Space Lens. The Space Lens is actually going to scan your entire computer to see which files are taking up the most space. So you can go through and you can see in this very visually appealing way which files are taking up the most space on any particular drive. So as we'll see here, I've got a nice little list here, and you see there's these nice bubbles. So if I kind of drill down a little bit, we'll go down into users. You see I'm taking up 1.435 terabytes, which obviously is not a lot. Then you've got my main user. Then you've got my Dropbox, which is taking up the most. You can kind of drill down and start to see which particular files are taking up the most. And it's all ordered by which files are taking up the most space. So if I'm ever in a situation where I'm trying to figure out, what is taking up space on my computer, I can start to drill down into folders. So you see here, this is taking up 720 gigs. That's all of my recent camera uploads. And then I can kind of sort down through these things to find out things as well. I've used this multiple times to find out that I have like a duplicate large video file that I don't necessarily need. I simply delete that, and there we go. I have a whole gig of space back on my computer. Their large and old files option does something that's pretty similar. This one is unique in the sense, however, that it will actually go through and scan which files are older, as it says right there, so that you can see if there's a really big file that's just been sitting on your computer collecting dust, you can either delete it or move it off-site, maybe to some sort of external hard drive or even to something like Dropbox or Google Drive. So you can see going through my files, I've got this launch theme demo screen capture that I did a long time ago, and it's 2.5 or I should say 25.63 or 25 gigs essentially, which is a pretty decent chunk of hard drive space. So what I could do then is I can click on that and I could easily just remove it, or I could go through and remove it securely if for whatever reason you needed to do that. But you can just literally check these and remove them really easily. This one, I don't know if I have a backup of it at the moment, so I'm not going to do that. I'll just leave it kind of as is. One of the last things, I don't use this very often, but it does have built in here a shredder. So if you've got like a list of passwords or something that's really secure that you want to make sure, super sure that it is completely deleted off the drive, you can use their shredder feature to ensure that it is completely 100% deleted. One of the other things I touched on earlier is the fact that you can go through and you can do some of the speed optimization or the maintenance. All you have to do here is you're just going to click view all these items, and it's going to go through here and it's going to tell you some of the things that are actually live at the moment. So if you've got applications that are just sitting there and not doing anything, if you're finding that your computer is starting up a little bit slower than you would like, they've got some login items that you can address. So all of these things are going to open the moment I turn on my computer. I don't really want this to be opening. So what I can do is I can just click this and it will automatically be removed so that that item will no longer open up automatically when I start my computer. Okay, so there's a lot of things that are built into the main app of CleanMyMac that I use all the time, but there's one feature built into this app that I use even more. So if you hop on up here to your nice little menu bar, you'll see that you have this nice little icon here. And if you click on that, you get this nice little dashboard that gives you a live feed of a lot of different things taking place on your computer. We can see how much hard drive space I'm currently using, how much is left. I can see how much RAM that I'm currently using. Another thing that I can do, and I've done this in the past before, but if you've like closed a lot of browser windows or you've recently closed a really memory intensive application and this is almost full, you can actually click free up and it will actually go through the process. Usually takes about 10 to 30 seconds of actually freeing up RAM that's no longer being used. It just kind of makes things work a little bit faster. You can see, and I use this all the time for a number of different things, but you can actually see right here which applications are using the most battery. So if you're one of those people who travels a lot and you're using your Mac on a plane or something like that, and you want to make sure that you get every last drop out of that battery, you want to make sure that you have this monitoring on so that you can check and see, okay, looks like that video playing right there is actually using a lot of memory or a lot of battery, so I want to make sure I close that. It'll also, it sets a threshold that you can set yourself as well for how much trash you want to be included before it warns you about it. So I've got a 2 GB threshold. So what happens is once I put more than 2 GB of stuff in the trash, then I get a notification that I can just one click to empty the trash to make sure that that stays clean. Because stuff or files that are in your trash are still on your computer, which means that they're still taking up hard drive space. One of the other things as well is that you can see how much data that you are currently sending through your network. So this would be your upload, how much you are uploading to the internet, how much you are downloading from the internet. So you can also do a speed test to see how your network is performing. They also have live malware monitoring. So if you get any, if you download anything that's closely resembling a virus, it's going to show up here as it is monitoring that live as well. And then one of the last things I like to keep on, an eye on as well is going to be the CPU. So if I've got any applications that are running that are going to be heavy on the CPU, I want to make sure that I close those whenever possible. But again, you can see all of these things live. One of the things I like as well that's really useful is that you see up here in the top right hand corner, it says 160 degrees Fahrenheit, so that you can keep an eye on as well how hot your computer is running. This is going to be important for a number of different things. If your computer is running hot pretty regularly, that's going to have a negative impact on things like battery life or even just the internal life of the computer. Most newer computers, this one included, are pretty good at displacing heat, so it's not something that you really have to worry about unless you hear like your fans running all the time, that sort of thing. Okay, so that's pretty much it. I know this was a little bit of a simpler video, but I just wanted to take some time to just kind of run you through some of my favorite features that I use of this app. I'm not sponsored by this particular app. I don't have an affiliate link or anything like that. It's just something that I have found endlessly useful. It's helped keep all of the Macs that I've had up to date and previous running quickly and smoothly, and I just always like to make sure that I'm sharing those things with you guys just in case they would prove helpful for you as well. So as always, if you did find this video helpful, hit that like button, subscribe if you're not already, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.